Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching In Depth
On Now You Know.
So Jesse, we're about to talk to Teague Egan. He's the founder and CEO of EnergyX. And a disclaimer here, we are early investors in this company. Take everything you see here with a little grain of salt or a little grain of lithium salt because we have invested early. But I'm super excited about this interview and we wanted to bring it to you as soon as possible. So check it out. We want to thank Birch Living for sponsoring the show.
Birch is a premium mattress-in-a-box company that makes mattresses and sleep products that are stylish, comfortable, and environmentally conscious.
And it's that last part, the environmentally conscious part, that really first got my attention because Birch makes organic, non-toxic mattresses made right here in America with just 4 materials sourced straight from nature: organic latex, New Zealand wool, American steel springs, and organic cotton.
Yeah, I've been sleeping on my Birch mattress for about a year now, and I love it for 2 big reasons.
All right, what's the first reason?
First of all, it's super comfortable. My girlfriend and I used to toss and turn way more with my old mattress. With my new Birch mattress, I find that we get much more restful sleep, and we both feel more energy in the morning.
So what else? What's the second reason?
Look, you're going to spend about a third of your life in your bed. And for me, I want a mattress that's going to be made out of organic and natural materials.
Exactly. Birch is certified Global Organic Textile Standard, Green Guard Gold, Fair Trade, Eco Institute certified, Wool Integrity New Zealand, and Forest Stewardship Council. It's made sustainably, and that's important to us.
And Birch Living just introduced their newest mattress, the Birch Luxe Natural Mattress.
The Luxe takes the comfort and luxury of the original Birch mattress to the next level, and it's crafted with responsibly sourced and sustainably produced materials, including organic cashmere.
The Luxe is specifically created with breathability, cooling, and support in mind, and offers increased airflow and targeted zoned lumbar support.
I actually think there's a third and a fourth reason you love your mattress that you may have forgotten about. Okay, it's how you got your Birch mattress and how you tested it.
Oh, right. Possibly the best part. Birch delivers your mattress right to your door for free within the US. It comes rolled up in a box, and it's super easy to set up for yourself.
And the 100-night sleep trial?
Right. Not only is it way easier than going into a store, and honestly, at a mattress store, you're really going to be able to tell how a mattress is to sleep on?
Yeah, you have to sleep on it. With Birch, you get more than 3 months to make sure that you love it. If you don't, they'll pick it up for you, and I mean right out of your bedroom, and you'll get a full refund.
And Birch gives you peace of mind with a 25-year warranty.
Look, if you've been dreaming about a new mattress, don't wait any longer. Use our link, birchliving.com/nowyouknow, and you'll get $400 off your Birch mattress plus 2 free pillows.
Those pillows, by the way, are made from recycled plastic bottles.
All right, well, we're so lucky today to have with us Teague Egan. He's the founder and CEO of EnergyX. And before we get started, everybody, Jesse and I are early investors in this company. So take everything you see with a grain of salt because we're super excited about this company.
And yeah, we spoke to Teague, I think it was on your last, the previous funding round,
right,
along with the rest of our investor club. So it was good to speak to you then. It's great to see you today. I think we should start off with this pretty recent quote by Elon at his Q2 earnings call.
Yeah, he said, it's basically like printing money right now. There's like software margins in lithium processing right now. So I would really like to encourage, once again, entrepreneurs to enter the lithium refining business. You can't lose.
And Teague, could you just remind us what business you're in?
The lithium refining business.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So you've got the richest guy in the world who knows about lithium ion batteries saying, get in the lithium refining business. You can't lose. Okay, so I'm really glad to be speaking with you today.
He said that lithium refining is like having a passport to print money. I think that was
yeah. I think that especially everyone watching here knows a little bit about electric vehicles and knows that they have lithium ion batteries, and so there's going to be lithium in those batteries.
I'm excited to see that you just, I think, deployed a direct lithium extraction pilot plant in Bolivia. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was at the beginning of the year. We ran that pilot for 5 consecutive months. It was awesome. You know, I think that we were the first company ever to deploy a real physical direct lithium extraction pilot plant to the field. A lot of people are testing these technologies in the lab setting, and we went through that phase, and then we deployed to Bolivia. And Bolivia is actually the world's largest lithium reserve. So that was a pretty big milestone for the company and really the industry as a whole.
So I kind of want to go through a little bit of background on lithium and lithium extraction and refining, because I think that a lot of people don't really understand. There's always this meme on the internet, and it's just, people will say like lithium is terrible and the way that we refine lithium is horrible. I want to talk about how it's done and how you do it and how that's going to lead to changes in the future.
So I think that when you talk about environmentability and sustainability, you need to baseline it against something. Anybody can say that anything is terrible, right? But if you're talking about the carbon emissions or carbon footprint of lithium versus fossil fuels, there's no comparison, right? And you really need to measure this in two different areas. One is the carbon emissions that it takes to extract something from the ground. And then the second is the carbon emissions that are emitted when you utilize it in an application, right? So when you are extracting lithium from the ground or pumping up fossil fuels, there is a carbon footprint, right? The difference is when you utilize fossil fuels, you burn them once and then it's done, and then you need to do it over again, right? With lithium, you're using it in batteries that last for 10 or 20 years. So if you are baselining lithium versus fossil fuels, there's no comparison at all. Now, if you go inside lithium, there's two different types of lithium resources that you can extract or produce lithium from. One is hard rock resources, which you're extracting it from an ore called spodumene. And you can think of this as the same as like a big open pit mining operation with big tractors and dump trucks, and that's pretty carbon intensive. Like you're just digging up the earth and going through a refining process with the ore. Then there is brine extraction, which is where lithium is found as a salt that is dissolved in this water. And lithium is alongside other salts like magnesium and sodium. And these are really, really salty waters. And lithium is but a fraction amongst a sea of other salts. You need to pump that water up from below the surface. It's actually pretty shallow, around some cases 200-ish meters. And then once it's on the surface, you need to extract the lithium out of the brine away from the other impurities. And the way they do that today is these massive evaporation ponds. They're literally the size of New York City, 15 square mile pond systems. The lithium goes through this sequence of ponds, which is using natural sunlight. So that's not very carbon intensive. And then it goes through a final processing facility.
How long does that take, by the way?
It takes about 18 months on average. In the comparison, again, when you're talking about environment, hard rock versus brine, again, there's no comparison. Brine will always be less carbon intensive in terms of its emissions than hard rock, right? So now you've narrowed it down again, right? So now we're focusing in brine, right? And I just explained the conventional way that lithium is produced from brine. Now, when you look at the conventional evaporation ponds versus direct lithium extraction, there are pros and cons, right? Using the conventional ponds, there's very, very limited power because you're using the sun, right? It doesn't get less carbon intensive than that. However, there are other environmental factors that come into play here. One is water. When you're just evaporating the water, you're losing a lot of this water from the surrounding water table that can be used for agricultural purposes. And that's something that the surrounding indigenous communities has a big problem with. The amount of water that it takes using the conventional methods. With direct lithium extraction, we use very, very little water. So that's a plus, right? We do use a little bit more power or energy than, say, natural evaporation, but you can source that energy using renewable methods. Either have close proximity to a wind farm or solar. And then the third is the geographical footprint. So as I mentioned, these ponds are like 15 square miles. A facility that does direct lithium extraction may be 10 acres or, relatively small compared to 15 square miles. So there's pros and cons, but within brine, overall, direct lithium extraction is less carbon intensive and has a better impact on the environment than the conventional methods.
And let's just talk about time for a second. So you said about 18 months to do the conventional method. How long does your method take?
Yeah, so it takes 18 months of residency time, right, to go through the ponds, which is bad when a customer comes to you and says, hey, I need lithium next week. They're like, and you have to say, oh, well,
See you in 2 years.
Yeah.
Direct lithium extraction is a lot quicker. You can process in a matter of days and then have lithium ready in a matter of a few weeks after final processing. So there's a huge time advantage there. Now you build these plants to have a certain annual capacity, right? So these pond systems could be putting out 30,000 tons per year. You would build a DLE facility to put out 30,000 tons a year. So the output on an annual basis may be similar, but the lead times in terms of getting there is the big difference.
Well, thanks for giving us that secret. Jesse and I are going to go start a lithium extraction company. So see ya.
Yeah. Before we do that, Teak, how do you do that?
Oh, yeah,
how do
get
you
his secrets from him.
How do you
Yes.
directly extract the lithium?
We had developed a portfolio of technologies that do this. And the way that somebody can think about this on a semi-scientific level is that using the conventional methods, which are these big evaporation ponds, you're just letting the sun evaporate the water, the H2O, and all these dissolved salts are crashing out the bottom, precipitating. And then you move the brine to the next pond and more water evaporates and more salts precipitate. And finally, at the end, lithium is one of the last salts that's left over that hasn't precipitated, and then you final process it out. It's this natural evaporative system. And the whole idea is a step change in technology to a mechanical controlled separation system. And there's a lot of other variables that come into effect. Like if it rains, say a few inches on the ponds, when you're trying to evaporate the water, that could delay that 18 months to 24 months, right? Like you need a huge salt flat that's no elevation changes to build these pond systems that are the size of Manhattan. So you need the perfect place with no rain, with incredibly high UV rays to be able to do this natural evaporation. Whereas direct lithium extraction, you just pump up the water, the brine, and you process it through a controlled facility, right? Now, in that controlled facility is where the technology is. And we are utilizing 3 different types of technology that are all prevalent in other industries, but have never been adapted for lithium. And the reason is because we've never needed lithium before. Until 2012 to 2015, Tesla was making a few thousand cars a year, but there was never this huge demand for lithium. And because of that, no smart people focused on, well, how do we improve from this conventional evaporation pond to a direct lithium extraction in a mechanical manner, right? So we've taken technologies from other industries, like for instance, selective membranes, right? Selective membranes are used in a variety of industries for separations in many different things. They're used in oil and gas to do separations. It's used in agriculture. It's used in food and beverage to, refine milk and soda, and like all these different things use membranes. It's used in desalination, where we can take salty ocean water, run it through a membrane, and have fresh drinking water on the other side, separating all the salts. So we took these learnings and this knowledge and said, we're going to make membranes that are selective to just lithium. So that's one of the technologies we use. However, there is not a one-size-fits-all direct lithium extraction technology. So the brines in Bolivia are very different than the brines in California, right? So solvent extraction is the second technology that we use, where you can design a molecule that you mix into the brine, and it extracts just the lithium. It's a liquid separation. And then it pours over into another like holding tank. And you know how water and oil will separate? There's like phase separation. I'm sure you've seen that in, your 11th grade chemistry class or something like that, right? Now, the extractant has the lithium. And when it separates, the brine doesn't have lithium. The extractant has the lithium. And then you extract the lithium from that extractant and it runs in a continuous cycle, right? So this is something, solvent extraction, that's used for 25% of the entire world's copper production. And copper, we're making tens of millions of tons on an annual basis, maybe more. It has a variety of applications. So we just took that knowledge of solvent extraction and applied it to lithium, right? The third is called ion exchange. And that's like a resin or a bead, like a sponge that will attract the lithium. And then similar to solvent extraction, you need to extract it again from the bead. So we use all three of those technologies, depending on what brine and what customer we're working with. But that's the kind of, so to say, secret sauce inside the plant.
So I guess we're not gonna.
Well, no, that's perfect. So it's three pre-existing technologies. So let's go start our lithium company. What's to stop us, right?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Well, I mean, is there anything that can stop us?
I think he patented them.
Did you? Yeah.
Well, we have 50 patents right now.
Okay.
Across, yeah.
So yeah, harder than we thought. All right, but I think I got him. The ponds sound really cheap, and his thing sounds really expensive.
Right. We just need a guy with a bulldozer.
Yep, that's all we
know
need.
A guy with a bulldozer.
Yep, and find a desert.
And a big salt flat, and hope it doesn't rain.
Right. We get a big tarp.
And so, I mean, this is what a difference in extraction that you're going from a highly labor-intensive solution.
But wait, does your system save money?
Yeah, it saves a lot of money. The way we think about unit economics in lithium is on a cost per ton basis. So how much does it cost you to produce 1 ton of lithium? And then for us, how much does it cost to produce a ton? And conventional methods across different brine operations and different hard rock is even higher cost. Brine operations, you can roughly say cost $4,000 to $5,000 per ton. For us, we're looking at around $2,500 per ton.
Oh, so it's cheaper.
And you can sell that exact same stuff, because it is the exact same stuff, for the same price that they would have to be spending more to process.
But is it the exact same stuff? Because I thought your stuff was even better.
I mean, there's different grades of lithium that producers sell into the market, like how refined you can get it. And what that means is what percentage of lithium is in the salt, right? Lithium is sold as, it looks just like table salt, right? It's just the chemical composition of it. Battery grade is considered at like 99.5% pure lithium, but there is that 0.5 of other stuff that made it all the way through, the magnesium, the sodium, etc. In our processes, we purify it up to that battery grade. There's also different types of lithium that different batteries use other than just the grade, but we can make all of those different things. So to answer your question, it's essentially the same purity and grade of lithium.
And so if you're able to basically create exactly the same as what other producers of lithium who are using evaporation ponds can do, and then sell it at the same price, but you spent less to process it, then you're getting a higher margin for your lithium.
Yeah, it's that. And the demand of lithium is there. People are buying lithium 10 years into the future right now, trying to secure their supply, like all these big auto manufacturers. The reason that Elon said what he said is because lithium is the biggest bottleneck to producing electric vehicles. Like, why do you think the Cybertruck hasn't come out? Why do you think all these other car companies haven't already transitioned their entire fleets to electric when Tesla is worth more than all the other car companies combined? It's because the supply chain to make the batteries, but more importantly, to get the materials that go into the batteries is limited. And the producers are producing as much as they can. And they're producing today 500,000 tons a year. By 2030, we're looking at 3 to 3.5 million tons a year. What direct lithium extraction does, in addition to a lower price, is it unlocks otherwise unviable resources in terms of their geography. I explained you need the perfect place to build the ponds, right?
If we found lithium underneath New York City and we wanted to extract it using conventional brine techniques, we'd have to just knock down all of New York City and just,
And
build those brine
rain.
ponds and then hope it doesn't rain. It rains in New York City more frequently than it does in Bolivian deserts. So you said that basically Bolivia and kind of those spots in South America are some of the largest reserves of lithium, but are there other reserves that are maybe a little bit closer to home?
Bolivia is part of an area known as the Lithium Triangle. It's made up of southern Bolivia, northern Argentina, northern Chile. And the reason the Lithium Triangle has so much lithium is because the Andes mountain range, which is the second biggest mountain range in the world behind the Himalayas, the rain would fall and then the minerals would flow with it down into the Chilean coast, into the Pacific, right? And these huge salt flats formed and they were rich in lithium, right? So that has 60-ish% of the world's known lithium reserves. However, there are other volcanic formations, several in the US, like the Great Salt Lake in Utah, right? That's in another mountain range. It's not quite as high as the Andes. The Andes is about 15,000 feet. The Rockies are 7,000 to 9,000-ish. Maybe, some areas get a little bit higher. But there are good concentrations of lithium in the Great Salt Lake. There are good concentrations of lithium in the Smackover region, which is Texas into Arkansas. There's good concentrations of lithium in the Salton Sea in California, which is like in the Imperial Valley area. So the US has a lot of good lithium reserves. It's probably third behind the Lithium Triangle being the first. Australia has great hard rock reserves. And then the US has the third best reserves in the world.
From a geopolitical standpoint, this sounds pretty good. I mean, if Biden tomorrow said, hey, we should get on this lithium ion business, we need to turn on all the reserves that the United States has, because if we can produce more batteries than, say, I don't know, some other countries, we're going to have a huge geopolitical advantage. Do you think that that's something that EnergyX could take advantage of if that were to happen tomorrow?
What happened yesterday?
Yeah, right? I mean, that sounds pretty good, right? So basically, you'd just be scaling up your production wherever there is briny stuff that you can get out of the ground, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, there's three variables that come into play when you're thinking about lithium extraction in terms of like the brine itself. Like, how good is this brine, right? Like, we all know the Middle East is the best for oil. You like stick a straw in the ground, oil comes up. For brine, there's three variables. One is, what is the starting concentration of lithium in the brine? And that's judged on a parts per million basis. South America has the best. It's better than the US, but the US has pretty good. The second is the impurity profile. So what is the percentage of lithium compared to all the other salts, and what are all those other salts that you need to separate the lithium away from? And the third is temperature. What temperature is this brine coming out of the ground at? Is it ambient temperature, like room temperature, or in the case of most US brines, is it hot? Geothermal. They're drilling down thousands of feet to bring it up, right? So those are the three different things. Now that the Biden administration has provided subsidies or incentives and grant programs around US production, it makes it a lot more attractive for a company like me to focus our time and effort in the US versus South America. There's a lot of different grant programs. The DOE has programs. They're doing big loan programs for advanced vehicle manufacturing and the supply chain. And then this infrastructure bill that just got passed earlier this week is another $400 billion. And it's giving huge subsidies for electric vehicles if their supply chains are from the US. So there's huge incentive now for US-based companies to localize or domesticate their supply chains. And as we've been discussing, lithium is the biggest bottleneck to the electric vehicle transition. So there's a lot of incentive for these vehicle companies and battery companies to invest into the US to make these lithium resources come into production.
This must be an exciting time for you, because when we talked to you last, this was kind of lab-based, and now you've had a chance to actually test it out in the field in real-world conditions, and it's worked, right?
Yep.
Yeah, this is the first time I think the DOE is even focused on things like mining, because this is the first time that to make vehicles involved mining. And said basically, if you want to get this tax credit, most of the mining has to take place here in the US. So you must be talking to a lot of people now who are really focused on that. And you have a technology that allows them to do it here.
Yeah, I mean, we're in an incredible position right now, and it's like a lot of people don't really focus like this. It just seemed like such an obscure thing, right? It's so far upstream from somebody buying an electric vehicle. Okay, an electric vehicle needs a battery, so people are familiar with batteries, right? Batteries power consumer electronics, phones, computers. Like, okay, batteries are important. But then what goes into the battery? Not a lot of people think about that. And then how we get the material that goes into the battery is just like in a different universe.
Right.
And even big organizations like the DOE didn't really focus on this type of thing until it became apparent that, one, we need to decarbonize, and two, the supply chain to decarbonize is controlled by China today, like 80% of the processing. And I know we don't want to be dependent on China. So it's something that's come to the forefront extremely fast. And, quotes like the one Elon made help, infrastructure bills and regulation from governments help. I couldn't be more grateful that we're in the position that we are today. And we're having tremendous conversations with big players that are really recognizing the need for direct lithium extraction and refinery.
So I see in your deck that you have a phased approach to this. So you're, I think, working on generation 1. Can you explain to our viewers the difference between the different generations of tech that you're going to be working on?
A big reason that a lot of tech companies die. It can be the most brilliant technology in the world, is the go-to-market strategy. There are, of course, rare cases where a technology is so disruptive and so needed by it's mostly large consumer bases, that it breaks this mold. But it's not like, the average Joe is going to buy direct lithium extraction, right? In terms of like an Uber, yeah, like you can have something disruptive like that, and it's a consumer-facing product, right? And that forces change. But direct lithium extraction, it's mainly a B2B thing. And when we were looking to sell into the existing producers and say, hey, we actually have a better way to do this than the ponds, there was pushback because a few reasons. One, mining is a very capital intensive thing. And they've already invested billions of dollars into these ponds and existing plants and infrastructure. And to just even have that thought where like something could replace you, they're not going to help foster that type of disruption. Two, it's kind of an oligopoly right now. Like there's 5 lithium producers, and to let a new guy in that could totally shake things up is a scary thought process, right? So what we decided is we need to make our technology complementary to what they're doing, right? Similar to the way that you can have an existing oil well and you could just implement fracking into that and produce 5 times more oil with the same existing infrastructure. So our phase 1, our generation 1, is complement the existing ponds, right? And that will prove out the technology on a commercial basis. It'll greatly increase the revenues of these companies because they have 2 to 3x higher yields of lithium. And then when the ponds are completely maximized, that still won't be enough lithium to supply the market demand. So then we can go to generation 2, which is directly from the well, no ponds necessary. But we do have this solution that complements, because the ponds right now operate on about 30 to 40% recovery rate. So for every 100 tons of lithium that you're pumping out of the ground that's dissolved in the brine, you only get 30 tons. They're leaving 70 tons on the table. So we figured out a way to get up to 90% or 94% was our mark in Bolivia, and figure out a way how to maximize all of the sunk capex that the big producers have already spent, right? So that's generation one. Generation two, we're already working on, which is direct from the wellhead, but it's kind of like this phased approach, right? Because doing generation two, again, very capital intensive. We're just taking advantage in generation one of all the money that's already been spent. Generation two, you got to build a bigger plant because you're processing more brine too. So I think we have a pretty smart go-to-market approach that is now being accepted by the existing producers. I mean, they recognize that direct lithium extraction is happening. There's a lot of smart people working on it now, a lot of big companies in addition to us. And it is necessary to fulfill the exponential demand that we're seeing now and into the future. So that's kind of our phased go-to-market approach.
What was your partner's reaction to the pilot program and the numbers you were seeing?
We ran that pilot in Bolivia, and the numbers speak for themselves. Like the data set that we got, which was also validated by the customer, the country of Bolivia, we were superior to all the other companies that were also trying to test. Now, so Bolivia ran this international tender for direct lithium extraction companies to apply and then do a pilot. And they had dozens of applications from all over the world, and they chose 8 companies to participate in the pilot program. And of those 8 companies, EnergyX was the only company that actually put a physical pilot plant down in the salar and operated it continuously for a 5-month span. All the other companies had brine shipped back to their laboratories and did testing there. It's a totally different ball game to be testing in the field continuously 24/7 for 5 months straight. So that really proved to us that we are one of, if not the leader in the lithium refinery and extraction space. In terms of what the customer thought, Bolivia is a political place, and I thought that, I could overcome those challenges. The other competitors in this race were from Russia and China, and Bolivia is still not yet determined how they want to move forward. But we got tremendous results, and now we are working on 5 more pilots for other customers because they've seen that we're capable of operating and deploying these plants, and they want to see how it works on their resources. So overall, it was a great experience and a great result, I think.
Now, as Jesse mentioned, last year we were part of one of your first rounds. We were early investors, but now we just heard some big news that you guys I think, closed another big round.
We did a deal with a private equity firm that committed $450 million to our business upon a go public listing. So once we take the company public, we have access to those funds. In the midterm, we are in the process of bringing on some strategic partners, which hopefully will be announced very soon. And we're doing another crowdfunding offering. It's kind of in a wait list right now, and we have a lot of interest. But anybody can go to EnergyX and sign up for the wait list. And we're going to open up another round of funding for retail investors and beginning investors really shortly here.
So talk to me about the project roadmap that you have here going forward. So what does it look like over the next few years?
I like to think of project roadmaps in segments. So I think about, I have my schedule today, right? And then I have, okay, what do I need to schedule for the week? What are my goals for the month, the year, 5 years? And then we have a 10-year master plan on our website. So I think about scheduling kind of in those different tranches. And in terms of the next six or so months, we are building these 5 additional pilot plants for customers that are unannounced. Those will be big announcements when we make them. But getting our technology to different lithium sites and bringing in those lines of business is going to be a fundamental game changer for our company. After that, we are the next 6 months. So in 1 year, we're thinking about how do we scale these pilots to larger demonstration facilities. So our pilots show on a relatively small scale. You can think about if you're thinking about how much it produces per year, you could say 10 tons of lithium, which is not very much, but we're proving the process in the field over a 6-month consecutive run. From there, we want to scale up to a demonstration size that's maybe like 200 tons. And these are full commercial modules, but we're not building a full commercial plant yet. We're doing commercial modules. So the way that we've designed and thought through our commercialization process is to do it in a modular fashion or an equilibrium fashion. So modular, it's like Legos, right? Legos are all the same size, and you can have 10 of them or you can have 10,000 of them. So once we prove the full commercial size in the field, it's extremely easy to go from 100 tons to 100,000 tons per year, right? So that's like 2 or 3 years, right? So next 6 months, put additional pilots with some of the biggest customers and some greenfield sites. Next 12 months, get 1 or 2 commercial modules, which is dubbed our demonstration scale. Maybe produce 100 or 200 tons. And then 2 to 3 years, we will, it's just as fast as we can build them or build the bigger units. And then in 3 years, we're thinking full commercialization, producing, hundreds of thousands of tons of lithium.
Now, you were saying earlier that you felt so fortunate that all of this stuff in terms of money and business is probably going to be coming your way. Are you really fortunate, or does the early bird just get the worm? I mean, I want to kind of go back and figure out how you figured all of this out.
Yeah, how you saw this coming
before everybody else decided that it would be a good idea to kind of glom onto this, or before everyone else went, oh crap, we need a lot of lithium. Who knows how to make lithium? And you're like, yeah, I already figured it out. Hi, it's me. How did you know?
Nobody starts a company if they think it's like, nobody's like, oh, that's a terrible idea, I'm going to go try to do that idea, right? Like, I obviously thought that this was a good idea in 2018 when I started the company. Did I ever think that the richest man in the world would be saying lithium refinery is a passport to print money? I thought it was a good idea, but I'm grateful because the exponential curve and the demand for lithium and all the big auto OEMs committing tens of billions of dollars to transitioning their fleet has all greatly affected my business. Not in my wildest dreams did I think that it would happen this quickly and become this big of an issue, and really become the main bottleneck. So for that reason, I'm grateful. How I thought about the idea, I've owned a Tesla since 2013. So shouts to Elon again. It's just the most amazing car I've ever driven. It's just like, not only the fact that it's a battery powered car, like other car companies have made battery powered cars, right? But he made it cool. It's the fastest car, right? It goes 0 to 60 in whatever it is. Like mine's 4 seconds, but now he's making them in under 2 seconds. He changed the screen. Like, nobody's ever seen a screen like that in a car. The handles are automatic. Like, you run your car with basically like a hotel room key card. Everything about it is just incredible. And I knew that the demand for this car was going to skyrocket, especially if he could make a cheaper one. I have the Model S, and then he went out and made the Model 3. So he made electric cars cool. And that is what caused all the other car companies to say, we need to do this. And then he became, the most valuable car company in the world. And then Tesla became more valuable than all the car companies together. And then he became the richest man in the world. And it's been like this snowballing effect. But in 2018, I took a trip down to South America. I love to travel, and I love to travel on the unbeaten path. There's people that like to go to the beach. I like to go to the mountains of Bolivia and see the largest salt flat in the world, because it's an extremely unique and beautiful place. And I'm on this trip to Salar de Uyuni, and my tour guide starts telling me how this is the world's largest lithium reserve. And I said, we're going to need a whole lot of lithium if my thesis of the energy transition is accurate. And that was largely based on my experience driving a Tesla. But never did I think that it would be this big, right? This fast. So that was when I had the idea based on this trip. Then I came to find that Bolivia as a country wasn't yet producing out of the world's largest resource. And I said, that's a problem that is worth me dedicating my time to. And if I'm anything, it's a problem solver. I don't have a scientific or technical background. I studied economics in school, but I can solve problems from a first principles point of view, and I can build great teams. And I know that I can go attract people that are a lot smarter than me, and that's what we've done at EnergyX. And we have a team of 50 brilliant scientists and engineers that are working around the clock to build direct lithium extraction technologies. And I'm grateful for that as well.
So, but why didn't you just buy a bulldozer down in Bolivia and start carving out ponds? Like, why weren't you like, well, okay, I'll do that? How did you come up with the idea of direct lithium extraction as opposed to just, oh, well, if this is like, I'll just be rising with the tide of everybody else. I'll buy up some tracts of land in Bolivia and start producing.
Yeah, I certainly could have done that. Like there are a lot of people out there that they see the rise in lithium and they're going about it the conventional way. And I could have started a lithium company and bought a tract of land and started to build my, rented a bulldozer.
Right.
So I first went to Bolivia in 2018 as a tourist. I had the idea. I came back to the United States. I started researching everything I could. I found this guy who was in water desalination, and I brought him back down to Bolivia. And this was the first time that I got to see the ponds. And I'm asking all these questions about the ponds. And I understand that it takes a really long time, that they have extremely low recovery rates, 30 or 40%. Bolivia, it's in single digits because they have some chemistry problems. And I'm asking all these questions, and pretty much the answer I got was, well, this is just the way it's always been done. And that's my least favorite answer. This is the way it's always been done. And my least favorite question is, why hasn't somebody else already done that? That's my least favorite question. But that answer to me was just insufficient. And I saw the ponds, and anybody with two eyes can look at these ponds and say, like, this is 1,000-year-old technology, and there has to be a better way to do this than relying on building these huge ponds, relying on natural evaporation. Like, we're living in 2022 here.
It does seem like ancient Andes civilizations could have been extracting lithium in the exact same way, right? Like I mean, aside from maybe drilling the wells, but I feel like they could have figured that out if they needed lithium, which they didn't. But I mean, like the technology, they would have just used shovels and rakes and stuff instead of the bulldozers. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like when you're saying 1,000-year-old technology, you're not far off, right? So, I mean, wow. So you were like, there has to be a better way to solve this.
But you know what? He didn't stop there. I was just looking that you have another product in your portfolio. You have lithium metal batteries. So can you tell us about Solus, which is your lithium metal batteries? Why are you guys getting into that? Aren't there other companies doing this, like QuantumScape and stuff?
Yeah, there are. But then again, there were other, to some extent, there were other companies trying to do EVs before Tesla came. There were other battery companies before QuantumScape came. There were other direct lithium extraction companies before EnergyX came. And, I am looking at lithium and batteries as the biggest industry of the next 50 years. Batteries are going nowhere. Batteries will power our future, especially for mobility. Like even if we make nuclear fusion happen and have unlimited renewable energy generation, you can't put a nuclear fusion reactor in every single car, right? So for any type of mobility, you need batteries. So batteries are coming, right? Not that they're not already here, but better batteries are coming. The way that I thought about lithium metal batteries, we licensed our first 4 patents from the University of Texas. When I got the idea down in Bolivia, the first thing I did was to start researching who else was who are smart people that are working on this, right? Like I know nothing about this. So who's the smartest person that I can go talk to? And it led me to a gentleman at the University of Texas named Dr. Benny Freeman. And he's one of the most renowned membrane experts in the world. And just like we use membranes for desalination, turning ocean water into fresh drinking water, he was working on lithium selective membranes. So I meet up with him, I license this technology, but it so turns out that the inventor of the lithium ion battery sits in the office right next to him, Dr. John Goodenough. I'm talking to my dad, and my dad is a serial entrepreneur. I aspire to become as successful as he has been. And he said, you have to go meet this guy. And I'm like, oh, well, I have nothing to work on with him. So one day I walk over to his office and I tell him I'm working on these lithium selective membranes. He says, you should take a look at some of the battery technologies that use lithium that we're working on. I say, that's not a bad idea. So I end up meeting his last PhD student. So Dr. Goodenough just turned 100 years old.
Wow.
And up until right before COVID, he was coming into work every day as 100-year-old man.
Wow.
Trying to invent the next battery. And he has some incredible patents and ideas for the batteries that his group, his PhD group, is trying to build. So I made a great relationship with him, made a great relationship with his last PhD, this gentleman, Dr. Nick Grundish. And Nick has become our VP of battery technology. And we have, I think, 4 of Dr. Goodenough's former students that are part of our battery team.
Wow.
And there's a lot of synergies between the extraction and the battery. The logical one being the lithium that's produced from the extraction can be used in the battery. The unlogical one is that the membranes that are used for lithium extraction are very similar to the membranes that are used as the solid state separator that goes in between the anode and the cathode, and that the lithium travels back and forth from. It's certainly an exciting kind of initiative that we're working on. We have a phenomenal team that's building these lithium metal batteries. We also have a novel proprietary technology that produces the lithium metal that goes into our lithium metal batteries. So brine, like lithium resource owners, can ship us liquid, salty brine. We can turn that directly into lithium metal and the other types of lithium that go into the battery, and build our own lithium metal batteries, all in-house. We essentially are a lithium refiner that is going from brine all the way to battery. And that's where I see our company going, but an integrated ecosystem going as well.
I feel really smart right now, not because I understand any of this, but because I invested in it last year. Wow, this was really fun to learn about. I'm also super inspired by your story. The fact that you didn't let the fact that, I'm a philosophy major, right? I'm not a science major, but you didn't let that stop you from trying to solve the problem. You said something really inspiring here. You tried to find really smart people and work with them. I think a lot of people out there think, well, if I'm not smart enough, I can't do it. And that you didn't let that stop you. You knew what your skills were, and they're really important skills, and you saw a problem that was worth solving, and you went and solved it. And also, can I just point out, in a very short amount of time, you only discovered this problem in 2018, and now 2022, we're here talking about actually having a pilot plant
and having stuff up and running. Yeah.
Because, I mean, when I was investing, I thought, well, this is probably 10 or 20 years off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the speed at which you're moving is exciting.
That's a good way to invest. Long-term investing. There are people that are asking me why we're not already producing lithium. And it's like, if only you knew the complexity to the problem. Another thing that I took from Elon, I try to build, he's just been so successful and so innovative and game-changing. Not only the way that he builds technology but also the way that he's structured his business. So when you say, oh, I didn't expect a pilot for years, our thought process is that the way that you can think about progress is the equivalent of number of iterations times the progress between iterations, right? So if I was thinking about a pilot plant and I was trying to make the perfect pilot plant that I could put in Bolivia, and the next step was commercialization, and it was a 100-ton pilot plant, and I had 5 years to build this pilot plant. I might build a pilot plant that I put down there and it doesn't work, right? Instead, I'm trying to do something where I have a small pilot plant in 6 months, and then a slightly larger pilot, and then I take everything I learned from that and iterate and build the next slightly bigger pilot plant in 12 months. And then I take everything I learned from that and do a slightly bigger one in 2 years. And then by the time it's 5 years, I might have a full commercial plant because I've deployed and learned and iterated, deployed and learned and iterated. And that's the way that we're approaching the development of these technologies across the board.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today. I'm really excited. I'm also really excited that it seems like it's still possible for people out there who are also as excited as we are to get involved. So they should go where to find out more?
EnergyX.com.
All right. Well, cool. Thank you so much. I can't wait to check back in with you in, a year or so and see what's going on.
Zach, Jesse, thanks for having me, guys.
I am so excited that, you didn't see this because we just stopped the recording, but I was basically online putting my name on that investor list on EnergyX's website. Yeah. I'm interested in investing more. So disclaimer again, we're very interested in investing in this company. I think you might want to consider becoming a Patreon at the Investor Club level because, we actually got to meet Teague about a year ago and got in early, even before all this, because we met him and brought him to our Investor Club privately so that we could all meet him and ask him questions. That's what we do here on the Investor Club. So we have a disruptive investing channel for just this reason and an investing club just for this reason. We kind of understand disruption. And when we heard about EnergyX, we're like, this is disruptive and we should share this.
And we talk a whole lot more about our thoughts on EnergyX over as one of our Investor Club Patreon bonus stories. So if you want to check that one out, you can join us over on Patreon, sign up for the $10 level, and you can check out that little video there and also join our Investor Club.
Yeah, so let us know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Now you know.